Hello everyone, I'm Racim from Advanced Motorsports. Today we are with the SR10 on iRacing around CTMP. I will give you a guided tour. Let's get it. So we're on the backstretch. I'm about to start our second timed lap, which is the first real fast lap. In the first lap, there is a lot of understeer from cold tires, so it's really important to strategize your qualifying. However, I am on race fuel, so I'll just take a normal exit here, and I'll stay quiet for the lap. Alright, let's reset the car and let's go look at the lap. There's a lot of things that I've done right. There's a few things that I've done wrong. Maybe more wrong than right, who knows? But here is a guided lap in terms of racing lines and in terms of inputs. To begin with, the SR10 on iRacing is a car that understeers a lot, a bit like real life. However, we've tried our best to give everyone a setup that rotates, but rotates in a safe manner. But if you over push the limit of this car, most of the time you'll end up understeering, especially at high speed corners. Low speed, you have so much boost that the moment you ramp up the throttle, you need to be careful. When you get out of Moss or when you get out the last corner, you'll get a lot of kick. So we'll talk about throttle control in this video a lot. It's going to be a recurring theme because you get a lot of rotation from the rear axle of this car, from its differential. And you can use that even at high speed to counteract the understeer, but you don't want to use it too much at low speed to create too much oversteer. So here's a lap around MOSPORT on iRacing. To begin with, to the line on entry of T1 and on entry of every corner. Roll the car over the crest as your turn in. You don't want to turn in too early in this corner, because if we play it in slow-mo here, if you turn in too early and you target the beginning of this curb, you're tracing a line towards the gravel. The apex of this corner is 2/3 to 3/4 down the curb. A good reference is this patch right here. Oftentimes you want to keep your left side tires inside the patch, or at least right on the other side of the right side line of the patch right here where my arrow is. But if you're too much on the inside and you're eating this curb, it will bounce a lot and push you wide. And if you're too wide and you're on the patch, then there's no grip on that side of the track, at least on iRacing. Touching the curb is to your own risk. You gotta do it with a lot of throttle, and you gotta lift the nose up because it will make you rotate, and you can snap the car loose on that curb. All the way till exit, however, you don't want to use this curb too much. Putting rear tires on this curb can often spin your car around, so you got to be careful with that. When you come back across for T2, you need to come back across as soon as possible. The reason is every space on track will affect the radius that you will take when you roll down the corner. So if I shape a circle like this, if I enter narrow, I tighten the radius. Therefore, I cannot carry as much speed in a tighter corner that my car is making versus if I go as wide as possible on entry. Also, do not be shy to brake early but less. The moment you turn in, you're committed to the corner, and as you can see here, it's downhill from there, right? So you're applying the brakes on a downhill. If you apply the brakes too late and try to make the corner, your car's already downhill, so there's not a lot of weight on the rear axle, and you're braking, so you're putting a lot of weight to the front axle. So your car will just wash around and hit the wall at T2, which is something that I don't think anyone wants to do. Also, notice how with the little braking that I put, I'm getting off the brakes way before the corner, and I'm already correcting the car. So be easy with the angle of the car at this corner. And your target is that patch right here. This is your apex. This is your track apex where you're going to clip the inside part of the track. Also, because of the compression on exit, you can roll on power very early. But if you refer back to what I said at the beginning of the instructions, is the rear axle gives you a lot of rotation, right? So I preload the throttle as early as I can near the patch to try to get as much rotation as possible through the corner. And also, it's most cars in most cars. Sorry, it's the case. In cars that understeer on power, you don't want to roll on power too early because you'll understeer to the grass. But in this case, progressive throttle at the patch is highly recommended to clear the corner on exit. And you should be double apexing it. That means that on this patch right here, where it opens up, you should have your left side tires to the white line. Or another good reference, again, the patch. So your right side tires inside the patch all the way till exit, but you don't need to use the curb. If you feel like you need to use the curb, that's because you've understeered to it and you need to either be more patient on throttle or be more patient with your steering angle. You don't want to steer too fast too soon. You see here that little play in the steering that I'm having right here. I'm not correcting oversteer, I'm correcting understeer. But other than that, the car rotates pretty nicely. As aligned as possible for this corner. Also, if you go all the way till the curb right here, you might not have enough time to bring it back for T3. And if you try to do so, and you do so, you've overheated the hell out of your right side tires. So try to not touch the curb on exit of T2, and this starts from here. So if you're able to get your roll on power and be patient enough so that when you roll 100%, you're looking, I'll try to put the cockpit view, you're looking at the patch here as you approach it. See, I can barely see the patch. I'm slowly ramping up on throttle, and the moment I see it, I know I'm gonna touch it and clear the curb on exit. That's when I'm 100% throttle. So that's that for T2. Now into T3 to the white line. We can say that this is the hardest high-speed braking zone. The reason is when you brake into MOS, you're braking down to second gear, but when you brake into T3, you're still in third or fourth, and I'll discuss why third or fourth. So, as left as possible, nearly touching the grass, but don't touch it. And then turn into the corner. A reference to turn into the corner is to follow again this patch right here. You want to keep your right side tires on the inside of the patch, but I would strongly recommend not to have your left side tires on the inside of the patch as well, because this corner, the apex is at the middle of the corner and it's quite even in terms of of radius from entry to exit. So if you turn in too early, similar to T1, you will not have enough room on exit. Also, again, I didn't do a great job at it, but try to be as smooth as possible on throttle to not understeer. I just want you to pay attention to the angle of my car here. The moment I go on throttle too aggressively, the slip angle reduced, right? But because of the differential, then the oversteer kicked in shortly after, and the blend made it so that I cleared this corner. The reason why also I'm a bit wide on at the apex is on my entry, I probably trail braked just a bit. I braked a bit too late, trail braked a bit too late, bit of oversteer, fighting the slide, and I missed the apex. So this is a corner where it's really important to carry as much speed as possible through the corner, but to respect the exit because it keeps turning all the way down till the curb, and at that point your car is not doing a lot of effort. Most of the effort that it's going to do is right here. So if you feel like you're going out wide and you're targeting the curb, if you trace a line, you're actually going through the grass. So be mindful of that when you apply throttle in T3. Then going into T4, the goal is to align it as straight as possible for MOS, which is 5A and 5B. Some people run the inside here and then lift. I would recommend to not lift, to clip the inside here. Just run the middle and angle your car. The moment you're lifting, you're losing time. So I just angle my car full throttle. It clears it. And your target, if you want to clear this corner safely, I would say lift at the patch. I lift a bit after and then apply the brakes. The reason is, if you notice, I am turning to the left when I'm braking, which I wouldn't recommend. It demands a very, very smooth braking application to do so. And you might find yourself locking up a tire if you're turning and braking too hard. So I wouldn't recommend to do what I'm doing here. What I would recommend is to do like a downscale of that, which is lift right about as you clear that patch, align your car, and then brake in a straight line with the white line. Now, let's discuss MOS. Okay. 5A is a wider arc than 5B. So here on Google Maps, we can see that 5A is much wider than 5B. So if this corner was to be flat, you would take it middle here, run the outside, and clip the apex on exit. However, if you go too wide, you demand a lot of steering work at this region. And the unfortunate thing, well, fortunate or unfortunate, it depends, it's subjective, but if you ask a lot of steering input at that point, the car is going over a crest, therefore it's being unloaded. And when the car is unloaded, there's not a lot of grip on either axle. Since the axle that sees the ground first is the front axle, the moment you become unloaded, you will start turning, the car will go a little bit, then stop, and then at some point, it's going to be the rear axle that's also going to stop. And that's why a lot of crashes happen on this wall, is because the oversteer here is not very controllable, because the moment you slide, it's all four wheels. So hard braking in a straight line, start your braking nice and early. Again, patches on this track is super important. I'd recommend to have your right side tires on the inside of the patch. What I wouldn't recommend is running the curb, because if you run the curb, you're going straight line aligned with that wall, and you don't want that. You want to be as aligned as possible for 5B. If you run the curb here, you're too tight. You're demanding a lot of braking work. If you're demanding a lot of braking work, a lot of nose weight, a lot of sliding. We don't want that. So don't be too wide, don't be too inside. The patch is a good reference, and this is where my car lies. And I would say that I'm a bit wide here, but that was because I was trying to avoid a front wheel lockup right over here. Entering 5B, the car will get loose around you. So it's okay to coast. However, the important thing here is, since this is a turbo car, get on power as soon as possible and progressively roll the power on exit. You will get minimal kick of oversteer. If you start getting on power here and you go from 0 to 60, you won't get a surprise here per se, but you can go 10 frames later when the turbo kicks in right about, let's say right about here. Or let's not say turbo, let's say just the overall torque of the engine when it kicks in, when you go from 0 to 60%. After that small delay, then you'll start sliding until you hit the tires, or you save it and come back on an opponent, or you scrub your rear tires. But it's all scenarios that we want to avoid. So that's why I get on power as soon as I know that I am going to clear the exit. And also, if you look at the steering work, my steering wheel opens up to go target the end of the curb right here, but it starts about here. So here I do a little correction because of the throttle application on oversteer. And here I have to reapply steering because I messed up the oversteer on throttle a little bit. So I should have been even more patient, just to give you a picture of how patient you need to be with this car on throttle. But the moment I'm out, I open up and I'm still cornering. Right, that's the key to not power slide in that car. It's a lot of steering work. As much as throttle is important, if you're still completely steered to the right and you have just this much throttle, the car will slide out. All the way out, you can touch the grass here. It's not a problem. I wouldn't recommend it. But it gets really bumpy, so try to have it as straight as possible. And then I'll spare you the straightaway. No, just one thing about the straightaway. So right over here it turns left, then it's straight. Then it just keeps turning right all the way till 8. Be as right as possible, especially when it turns to the white line. And then on the entry of 8 to the white line, I'm not quite there, so I should be more left. And now into 8. 8 is a long double apex corner. It's very, very similar to 5, but it's just more open. And it's not uphill, but it's downhill. Okay, but again, here there's a sharp turn, and then it straightens out, and then there's another turn. And at the end of 8, you need to set up right to turn left into 9. And at the end of 9, you need to set up left to turn right into 10. If you mess up 8, you'll carry that time delta all the way till 10. The key here is to be patient on throttle. What I mean is, you need to keep the car balanced as neutral as possible, but you do not need 100% throttle at all times in between all 3 corners, because there's no straightaway. As long as you're maximizing the forces of the tire and you have the car aligned to the outside on entry of the next corner, and you're executing your corners, then you shouldn't have an issue. So turn in full throttle, brake before the curb, light braking just like T2. Okay, brake lighter but for longer, just to not make the car nosedive and create too much slip angle in the car. And then it's a lot of brake play all the way till the second part of T8. And now I smoothly load up the throttle, and I kind of wait here to see if the rear axle is giving me oversteer. The moment I know the rear axle is giving me rotation, bang, full throttle. This is probably the only spot where in that corner complex you'll be full throttle for that long. The moment you clear the curve for 8, align as right as possible, turn into 9. Okay, and the key for 9 here is a lot of people align it with the patch and turn in late. There's no use. Number 1, there's no grip there. And number 2, there's no exit, so you're not setting up for anything. Actually, the key to 9 is to brake as much as possible, to not slide the car, and to bring it as left as possible um, at the end of the curve. So where you clip 9 is you clip 9 right about 3/4 to 3/4 from the beginning of the curve to the end, and just notice how here I'll smoothly roll on power, and I'm kind of waiting, and then I get on full throttle. So that's the whole key with this corner complex is if I had went full throttle as soon as I cleared the curb here, I would have understeered a bit more, and I wouldn't have been able to set up the car to the white line here. So throttle patience with this car is the key to control the balance of the car. And then in 10, light braking, light and early braking. Even with this light braking, look at my steering work. Kick over oversteer just a little bit to control the angle of the car. And then roll on power, wait, and I'll get on it. I'll play it full speed. And at the exit of T10, use as much exit as possible. And now we're going to discuss the details of the track. So now I'm going to discuss what you can choose to do, what you can avoid to do. To begin with, in T1, you can completely avoid touching the curb. It will give you a more stable car with a little bit less turn. Here, when you clip the curb, you're more inner mid apex. So if you enter at the same point, you have a less curvature to travel. And also the curb will give you a little bit of rotation at the end, so you're not understeering all the way down to exit. What you don't have the choice is do not touch the gray stuff on this curb. T2, there's no choice. Is the line as explained. Well, in my opinion, at least. T3 as well, pretty much one line through there. I'd say T5 as well. Pretty much not a lot of options for T5. Ah, yes, sorry. Yes. For T3, I'll downshift twice. I'll downshift first here in fourth, and a second time right before apex in third to get a lot of torque. However, when you're gonna downshift in third, the diff on these cars is quite locked, so you'll feel a lot of understeer because there's more torque available to your car. When there's more torque available to your car, the wheels are more locked. So at a lower RPM, if through the race you're getting a lot of understeer right as you approach the corner of T3, sorry, right as you approach the apex of T3, keep it in fourth and roll fourth. You might not get the exit that you want because it's not the same RPM range, but you will get a better roll mid corner and it will compensate. I've driven both. I've done both third and fourth. If I'm on a fast lap, I can do both. I don't notice a big difference. I prefer third because I can be more aggressive on entry and roll on power and get more oversteer when I get on power when I get out of the corner from apex to exit. But if I want to preserve my tires and make the tires last the whole race, I think I would use fourth instead of third. So that's that for T3. T5. Keep your last downshift in second for the top of the hill. You don't want to downshift on the hill. You want to do little to no braking work, and you don't want to downshift at all if you can, avoidable. Because the moment you downshift, you create a little wheel speed difference between the two tires because you go from a low RPM to a high RPM. And that difference will kick your car just a little bit and it will unsettle the car. So I keep my downshift all the way top of the hill right here. And you see, look at the throttle here and look at the car. It gains angle, although I'm almost off the brakes, right? So that's something that you need to be wary of. The moment you downshift in second, the car will come around you. And then let me see, T8. Okay, T8 you have two choices. There's a few options for T8 depending on how you want to drive it. I personally believe that avoiding the inside curb a little bit helps to go clip the next curb. Avoiding it too much is an option, but I wouldn't recommend it. But I've seen some people run the inside of the curb. I don't believe it's the fastest, but it will give you a certainty of going to clip the other curb, and also creates more of a straight line the moment you enter this corner, because you're going tighter initially. So since you're doing less steering, if you go and clip the curb, you can apply a bit more brakes, and you won't have as much steering work right over here. See, the moment I get near the curb, my steering wheel works a little bit. If I were to brake more right, I don't think I would have to do as much work on the steering wheel. However, you might be in trouble going to clip this curb, and you might understeer away, and you might end up mid-track into T9. And mid-track in T9 is you mess up T9, then if you mess up T9, you mess up T10, and you messed up a big part of the racetrack. So it's something you got to keep in mind. If you want to run the curb on entry to T8, you got to make sure you go clip the curb at the end of T8. Entering T9, I roll in fourth to get more throttle control from a lower RPM. I don't want to be in a high RPM in third, and the moment I put a power, the car reacts. But there is also the option to roll in third. However, if you roll in third, you got to slow down a bit more. So beware of that when you take T9. I personally recommend to roll in fourth. And then approaching T10, roll it in third. So that was it for the instructional video for the SR10 around CTMP. I hope it helps. If you have any questions, feel free to DM us at Advanced Motorsports on Instagram, or on our website at support, or directly, which we would recommend directly through the Discord. We will be looking at the Discord server for any questions, any advice, any help. And most importantly, have fun, keep the car in one piece, and finish the race. It's more than mission accomplished for everybody that races a race. The rest is little details. But yeah, hope we have a nice clean race, and I hope everyone has fun. And ciao ciao.
We have a free ebook on six drills on how to get faster in the sim. Can also be applied in real life. You can click the link in the description below to get your free copy right now. Hopefully you enjoyed the video, and I'll see you on track.